It all started with a very simple idea. Tell the stories of how successful middle market CEOs made it to the corner office. I'm Brant Handley, founder and managing director of Resource Options International, or ROI. We're the USA's premier executive search firm focused exclusively on empowering middle market companies to attract, hire, and retain A players while transforming top executives' careers and lives. ROI's Into the Corner office is dedicated to discovering how middle market CEOs advance their career, and we're making these remarkable and sometimes quite unbelievable stories available to you for the very first time. Listen and learn about the challenges they've overcome, the interesting people they've met along the way, and the lessons learned that steered these executives' unique journey into a middle market corner office of their own. I know you enjoy these CEO stories as much as I've enjoyed recording them. So thank you for listening today. And if you like what you've heard, rate us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm looking forward to you joining me on the next great middle market CEO adventure into the corner office. My CEO guest today is David Peacock. As a strategic executive with progressive experience in the manufacturing industry, David is focused on driving performance and continuing the long-standing heritage of Hytrol Conveyor Company through lean practices and alignment of cross-functional talent. He continues to promote a culture of excellence by encouraging collaboration and communication, and with a dynamic leadership style, David possesses the organizational and tactical knowledge to guide Hytrol's people, processes, and initiatives. He spent 12 years in the Marines after getting his degree at the Citadel. David Peacock, welcome into the corner office.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
It's wonderful to have you here and great to be able to hear your story. We spoke about a month ago, and great to have you lined up, obviously, for our podcast today. And we kind of like to get started with the early years and hear a little bit about how things, kind of transpired for you as you were growing up. Tell us a little bit about, where you grew up, brothers and sisters, mom and dad. What part of the country was that?
Oh, I grew up in North Carolina, primarily in Lexington, Winston-Salem area. I have two brothers and two sisters, so there were 5 kids, and my mom. Right. And my mom was a single parent until I was about 12 years old, and she married my stepfather at that point. And before that, it was life was pretty challenging for a single mom with 5 kids. But
I can imagine.
We had a good time. We didn't realize that we were struggling as much as we were. So we look back now and realize that, So we had a good time. Then my mom met my stepfather in 1973, 74 timeframe, and they ended up getting married. So and we moved from Lexington at that point to Winston, which is about a 20-minute mile, but it was really like moving across a galaxy
I can imagine.
From where to where we ended up. So it was a nice change.
Gosh, 5 kids. So what did mom do? She obviously was working, and what was her profession?
At that time, she actually worked in textile. She was a seamstress. And one of the stories my mom tells to this day, which I have adopted, was with 5 kids. She took myself. I was the second child, and my younger sister was the third child. She would take the 2 of us to daycare, which was right across the street from where she worked, and allowed my older sister to take care of my 2 younger brothers.
I was going to say,
And in today's society, I don't know that you could get away with that, but at the time, but so then every day at lunch, me and my sister got to go over to my mom's factory and sat there. And on one occasion, they got paid by the piece. And they kept all the sewing machines kept breaking their line, and it would slow them up. And on one occasion, I commented that if they moved this piece over to here and did this, then it probably wouldn't break as often. I was 11 years old at the time.
So, wow, that's fabulous.
By the end of the summer, the entire plant had changed over to the suggestion of an 11-year-old. So,
well, you got involved in manufacturing very early on, it sounds like.
Yeah, I did. I enjoyed the challenge. So
it sounds like it. Well, wow, what an inspirational moment for that. Well, that's terrific. And was mom someone who came from a working class background as well, or what part of the country was she from?
Yes. My grandmother, her parents had immigrated from England. My grandmother, very early in her life, came over and lived in New Jersey, and then moved down to North Carolina with her parents. So my mom spent most of her life in North Carolina.
Yeah, fantastic. And, we're both C12 members, fabulous organization. For those in the pod that are listening and don't know about C12, it's a peer advisory group of Christian business owners. And was Mom, a religious person? Did you grow up in the church? Was that an important part of your inspiration and growing up early?
We did. We went to church every Sunday. I can't ever remember not having my faith. So it's from a very early age.
Fantastic. That's terrific. And were you involved in the church? Did you do certain things as a kid growing up? Was there the kinds of activities back then that we have so active today, or was it just kind of more Sunday school and attending the service?
We'd go to vacation Bible school in the summertime. We were fairly active in the activities that they had in the church. I wouldn't say that we had any type of leadership role, but the church did a good job of helping my mom take care of us.
I was going to say, they're probably the real backbone there. Well, that's fabulous. Any inspirational folks that you can remember from those days? Either from school or from sports or during your church growing up time.
Well, when my father came into our lives, or my stepfather, I guess I would give him the most credit for helping getting me focused and convince me that pretty much I could go and do anything I wanted to do. I just had to put my mind to it, and exposed us to we changed schools, and I started participating in sports, got involved with junior ROTC, and there was an organization you may or may not be familiar with called Civil Air Patrol, it's an Air Force auxiliary organization that does search and rescue, and they've got a cadet component to that, and I participated in that. So there was I have a very regimented personality, and I really am attracted to those types of organizations.
Well, that early manufacturing comment in your mom's factory makes a lot of sense. Were you a good student in school, David?
I tell everybody that I can never remember studying in high school. I was a top 10 student, a top 10%.
Came easy to you.
Yeah, I was. If I had applied myself, I think I could have done much better. But nobody in my family had ever gone to college before I went to school, and so it was learning the new expectations. And so I didn't study a lot in high school. I worked. I had my own job. I played sports, and I was very actively involved with the JRTC after activity programs.
That's great. What kind of sports did you play?
I was a runner. I in the 9th and 10th grade, I wrestled at 99 pounds.
Wow.
I was a real small kid, and I ran cross country and long distance and track. I ran the mile in track, so it's a big runner. I wanted to play football, but at 99 pounds, there's not a lot of roles.
Right. Unless you're a very fast tight end, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. And you'd mentioned working some entrepreneurial things growing up. Were you working more odd jobs? What were the types of things you were doing as a kid?
I worked in restaurants primarily. My first job was in an Italian restaurant, and I made the gamut. I went from Italian to Chinese to seafood. And,
well, getting the free food there, of course, is a big part of it. So you want to make sure you had all the different samples, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. And did you save money for college? Was that an important part of kind of your saving efforts, or did you have some things during those years that were kind of your things that you saved up for, that special bike or something else that you got along the way?
Yeah, it was just helping the family. It's buying clothes for school and going and doing activities with my friends, those types of things. I got very fortunate. I got a Marine scholarship out of high school that paid for college, and so
fantastic.
Yeah.
And did your older sister go to college?
She did not. But my younger sister,
some of the younger ones,
ended up going to North Carolina State. I went to the Citadel in Charleston. I was supposed to go with a buddy of mine. He convinced me to go there. And then at the last moment, some things happened, and he wasn't able to attend. And so I went down there on my own. But it was a great experience. And
then 4 or 6 years of service after that, or what was the obligation?
I actually I had planned on making it a career to stay in the Marine Corps. And I did. I got out after 12. I didn't do the full 20-year retirement, but after 12 years, I had taken an assignment in acquisitions, and found out after the fact that once you do something like that, you're pretty much pigeonholed into acquisitions, and that's not really why I joined the Marine Corps anyway. And so I decided it was probably time to go and do something else, and started my private sector career at that point.
After that. Well, thank you for your service, David. And I'm sure that appealed to your process orientation and your discipline as well, right?
Well, absolutely.
Or further refined it, perhaps. Fantastic. And did you get a degree in college? Were you engineering, or what was your field of study?
I started out as an engineer, and like I said, I thought I was 17 when I went to college, and I thought that I'd be in the Marine Corps my entire life. And 20 years at 17 seems like the rest of your life. And so I knew I needed a degree, and I was interested in engineering, but that was going to be a lot of hard work. And so I switched 4 days into my collegiate career to history, and I studied history while I was there.
All right. Excellent. And then right into the military coming out. Were you stationed overseas? Were you at Camp Pendleton out in California? Where did they put you?
Well, my first duty station was in Camp Lejeune. After Quantico, it was at Camp Lejeune. And about a month after getting there, I told my battalion commander that I joined the Marine Corps to go to places and do things. And they sent me to school in South Carolina. Then they sent me to Quantico for OCS in the basic school. And now I'm back in North Carolina. So I've been to the 2 adjacent states. And I said, that's not really what's my expectation. So,
right.
So the next month he transferred me to a unit, and I was in the Middle East for the next 2 years. So,
oh my gosh. Be careful what you ask for. Where were you in the Middle East?
We were primarily, it was in 85, 86. So we spent a lot of time off of Beirut. There doing security force work and doing exercises in Africa, and getting to go occasionally to on liberty into Europe. So Italy and Spain.
No hot assignments during that time, right? That was prior to the Iraqi situation.
Yes, it was. It was before Desert Storm even.
Yeah. Awesome. And what did you like best about your overseas posting?
Just the opportunity to be exposed to those different cultures and what was going on in the world, and feeling like that what we were doing was making a difference. It was, we were there to protect U.S. interest and U.S. lives.
Right. Awesome. And, the military is known for giving leadership responsibility pretty early on. When did you first have that after you were stationed? Was that while you were still in the States, or did that happen while you were in the Middle East?
I was, as a lieutenant at Camp Lejeune, it was pretty quick. I worked for a captain who was the commander for the unit that we were in. Okay. And when I got assigned to my first unit, which overseas, I had about 15 Marines that reported to me at that point. So I was 22 years old and deployed forward with responsible for 15 individuals. And
all of them were younger than you, or was it kind of a combination?
No, it was
younger and older.
Both. My second assignment in the Marine Corps was in Arizona, and I had a master gunnery sergeant that worked for me, and he joined the Marine Corps the year before I was born.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. How about that? Fantastic. Yeah. Well, what were some of the lessons, if you go back to that period of time, that lessons that you took away from leadership?
That you need to surround yourself with good people. Yeah. In the Marine Corps, you get those people assigned to you. So
there's no choice in it. Yeah, exactly. You're not doing much hiring there.
Exactly. Yeah. But you have to learn to take advice from people who have different experiences. For me to expect to tell an individual who had been in the Marine Corps my entire life how to do his job was not a realistic expectation. And it was a good learning experience. I learned that find the right people and work with those guys and trust their abilities, and things will go well.
Did you have situations where you would have someone reported to you that just, wouldn't obey orders, or maybe had an attitude problem? And if so, how do you deal with that in the military?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you two examples. The first one was at that same unit in Arizona. I had asked a Lance Corporal, a young man, to do something, And he said no. And by this point, I had been in the Marine Corps about 5 years. And that was the first time in 5 years that anybody ever told me no. And I just sort of froze there for a second. And,
what do I do now?
Yeah.
Right.
And two staff sergeants grabbed this Lance Corporal and took him away. And a gunny stepped in front of me and he said, "Sir, we got this. We'll take care of it. Don't worry about it." And I went, but he
really?
So they handled it.
And those were other people under your command?
They were. But they knew that their dealing with it would be it was
far more effective.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and probably to protect him as well.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, it wouldn't. It wasn't going to kill his career. Whereas if I had to deal with it, it would have. So you learn appropriate responses.
There you go.
As long as you're correcting the behavior, that's the end result. Is we want to make sure that we're doing things the right way.
That's so interesting too, because in my executive recruiting career and in my professional career before getting into it, I can never remember a time when someone stepped in front of someone else and said, "Let me take care of that behavior." Right? It doesn't happen that much in the private sector.
Yeah.
But it's really a sign of humility, but also a sign of, hey, we're a team.
Yeah.
Right. And we'll take care of our own. So that's interesting. Did the guy ever say no again?
No.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So 12 years in the military. What was the first job coming out?
I was a production supervisor for Rubbermaid in Texas.
Okay. Got it. So right into manufacturing.
I did. I enjoyed that.
Great company too, by the way.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was a couple of years before Newell had purchased them.
Okay.
And so it was.
Was a former GE guy running it at the time, or was that before he came in? Yeah. Who was that? Who was the CEO at the time?
I can't remember his name. But I remember
he was one of the ones that was passed over when Jack Welch, I think, took CEO. Because I know that 4 or 5 of those guys went and run various companies, and I remember Rubbermaid being one of them. Yeah.
Well, in '93, it was voted the best place in America to work.
Oh yeah, I remember those years.
It was a great opportunity.
Yeah. And how long did you stay there?
I was there until early 2000.
Okay.
I did. I had 5 different jobs, and while I was there, I got a chance to. I came in at a production. I actually took a pay cut when I went there, but I knew that you go in, you learn, and you contribute, and new opportunities will present themselves. And so about every 10 to 12 months, I would get promoted to a new role and got a lot of different experience. I got a distribution experience while I was there. I was project manager for the implementation of Toyota production system. So I got lean experience while I was there.
Oh, fantastic.
It was a great opportunity.
Yeah. So how many years in total at Rubbermaid?
Right at just under 5 years.
Yeah. Fantastic. Great. And then what was the next career progression?
The individual that was the plant manager at Rubbermaid left and went to a company called Doscosil, which they're in Arlington, Texas. Mm-hmm. And he asked me and a couple others to come with him.
Middle market company, privately owned.
Yeah. We were actually I didn't realize this at the time when I accepted the position, but we were in receivership and we were there basically to fix the company. So
right.
It was 80-hour weeks. It was pretty brutal. But
did you turn it around?
It did. It turned out well. I was there for just under a year. He asked me to come there and do 2 specific tasks, teach the production frontline leadership how to manage their day-to-day operations. And we had 2 plants side by side, and in plastics, workforce varies greatly throughout the day and from day to day. And we'd have one plant that had too many folks and another plant that was shutting machines down because they didn't have any. Wow. And just that whole coordination between the 2 facilities was the second responsibility. And so I got both of those done in 8 months, and he thanked me and paid me for the whole year, and I went jet skiing for 4 months in Florida.
Good for you. Yeah. Good for you. Took that time off. Fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, you're CEO of Hytrol, about 3,000, 4,000 employees?
1,300 employees.
1,300 employees. Great. Sure. But you didn't come there as CEO, as I recall. You came in a manufacturing position or operational position?
Well, actually, I was hired to be I'm the 3rd president in the history of Hytrol.
Right.
And I was hired for this role, but I had 9 months where I got to come work at the company and pretty much learn it from the ground up. So I spent time building conveyor out in the shop floor, visiting our integration partners in the network.
Fantastic.
Working across the whole entire organization. It was a great
Was that
opportunity.
kind of an onboarding process that the company does for all executives? Yeah. Yeah. What better way to learn it? And had you been in the industry prior to coming over there, David?
I had been in material handling, but I'd been in the vehicle side. So I had worked for JLG before and a company called Calmar, which was a European company that we built a facility in Texas.
Got it.
Just before coming to Hytrol.
So you kind of had the parallel industry experience, as we call it, in executive recruiting, right?
Yes.
Brought over that. And you've been there how long?
Actually, next week will be 5 years.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's terrific. And terrific company. Now, privately held, private equity backed. What's their ownership structure?
It's privately held. It's family-owned business.
Family-owned, right. Did you take over from a family member as chief executive, or had there been previous one or two before you? Weren't that many, I guess, right?
Yeah, the founder was the first president, and he served until 92. Right. And then my predecessor, Greg, served from 92 until I took over the position in 2015.
Yeah, fantastic. And, tell us a little bit about kind of that responsibilities at 5 years in. If you reflect back, what's some of the, early management experiences, or rather management lessons that you think you've learned over that period of time?
I tell everybody that, I've worked in some really good companies, but this is the first company that I've worked at that, at the Citadel, there's a lot of history and a lot of tradition, and you're expected to come in and live up to that and make the place better wherever you can contribute. Right. The Marine Corps is the exact same way. You're expected to come in and help build the organization. And I haven't had that same sense until I came here. And we talk about the Hytrol family, which is all the employees. And it's really that same kind of feeling that I had in those organizations where we're very committed to our workforce and maintaining the culture that we have here of a family dynamic. And recognizing that, treat people the way you want to be treated.
That's right.
And it's remarkable every day just how much these folks care and are committed to the success of the organization.
It's so funny. So often some of those very basic biblical principles really work so well in companies that work well. Yeah. Right. And it sounds like, the golden rule is a very important one there. How would you kind of describe the company culture, David?
It's paternalistic is not really the right term, but it sort of conveys the attitude that
family orientation. In that
exactly.
Regard.
And we recognize that there's 1,300 employees, but there's 1,300 families that go along with those 1,300 employees. And so the decisions that we make today impact those as much as it does the business. And if we don't take care of the employees, then the business won't be, the business will fail. It's just a matter of time. And so we're very conscious of what do we need to do to give them the right tools. And so, for example, a few years ago, we were able to come up with a solution to put air conditioning in our factory. And the factory is about 700,000 square feet. So it wasn't
huge.
It was a costly endeavor. But, if you ask here in Arkansas, it'll be 90 degrees and the humidity will be 80%. Oh. And then you add in all our lasers and our paint system and all these other heat sources, and it would be 115 degrees in the facility. Gosh. And so if we really believe that we're going to take care of people, we didn't have a choice but to come up with a solution.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. But investing in the workforce, giving them the tools to be successful. And we've been blessed because over the last 4 years, we've doubled in size. And so that's that's a lot of growth.
Yeah. So have you found as CEO, particularly the family-oriented, are the family members still involved at all in management, or have they pretty much moved on?
There's the family. It's Mr. Loberg passed in 2004.
He was the first president.
Yes, sir. Okay. And so then his kids now are the primary owners of the company.
Right.
We have representation on the family on the board, and we have a grandson that works in the business who actually works for me and runs strategic planning for me. Is somebody that I lean on every day for advice and
fantastic. So still some folks involved, and they're 100% owners as the family members.
Well, we have a small ESOP component to it.
Oh, we have an ESOP. Oh, good. Yeah. That's great. Terrific. Yeah. We've got a couple other clients that are ESOP. So that's a wonderful way as well to retain loyalty and usually have fairly high retention rates. Do you find that the ESOP helps you in those areas?
Exactly. Well, and going back to your culture, Mr. Loberg felt like the company, the employees should have an ownership component. So that's why he put the ESOP in place.
Fantastic.
But it does. I mean, we have 48 employees. They're not all current employees, but we have 48 employees that worked here 40 years or longer.
Wow. Fantastic. That's
earlier
great.
This year, we celebrated the first non-family member that had 50 years of tenure at the company.
And how old is the company in total?
72 years.
Yeah, fantastic.
47.
And for those that are listening today, an ESOP is an employee stock ownership program, I think is how it's defined, right?
That's correct.
And this is we were some percentage of the company. It can be as high as 30 or 40%. Usually it's not more than 50, right? Because the family kind of retains the majority share. And then the shares are earned every year. There's kind of an evaluation done of the company, David. Is that how it works?
Yeah, there's two pieces that can escalate the value of the ESOP for the individual employees. The first one is contributions. Just as we would make contributions to a pension program or to 401k, the company makes contributions to the ESOP.
Right.
And so then that doesn't necessarily result in owning more shares, but it increases the value of the shares that are held in ESOP. And then the second one is the company escalates in value. As we have, as you can imagine.
I've been doubling in a year or two. Yes, exactly. Wow.
Then the value of the company goes up. And so as a result, the shares that are held in the ESOP are valued. Their values go up as well.
And everybody gets some sort of a share allocation every year. It's kind of dependent on what they're earning, right? Is that kind of the formula?
That's correct.
Yeah,
and you have to be here a certain period of time.
I think it's like 3 or 5 years. Yeah.
I think it's 3 years.
I think you have to be there 3 years to vest. And then once you vest, you own all of that you vested over those first 3 years and every year thereafter, I think.
That's correct.
So if you leave, in addition to whatever 401k and salaries and bonuses, then there's an extra 401 or an extra ESOP benefit, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, no, it's a terrific program. Been very, as I said, we've got a very large client that we've worked with for over 10 years that's on the West Coast. That's an ESOP, and they're in the building materials area as well. And, it's a terrific way for high retention. And would you say that your retention rates are higher than the industry average when you look at some of your competitors? Has that made a difference?
Yeah. When you come here, it's very rare that someone leaves. We probably turnover in our industry in this area. We're not quite. We're a little bit higher than half.
Okay.
But so if the industry is about 18, we run 11 or 12% on an annual basis.
Fantastic.
But most of that happens in the first 6 to 12 months.
Exactly. Yeah. Once they're kind of there for a while, they get settled in, and of course having that ESOP opportunity as well is terrific.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work to map out career paths for folks too. So if you come in a certain role, it's very easy for you to see what's required to move to other areas. And so if you're interested, if you come in as an hourly employee, but you want to work in engineering, we actually have a path to go through some training and
that's awesome.
That will allow you to move into those roles. And so we think that being able to visualize a career here helps with that retention.
Right. No, that's absolutely straight. That's great, Trent. Love to hear that. So we're both C12 members, peer advisory group of Christian business owners and executives across the world. Actually, now we've got several overseas locations. How has that impacted the way you lead, and particularly in a company that, you've got an ownership share, but you're not the majority owner. It's not your company, so to speak, although I'm sure you feel a high degree of ownership. Have you been able to implement some of the C12 principles, and has that been helpful as you have developed as a leader?
Oh, it has. The very first advantage that I got was at my initial meeting where I was trying to decide if I was going to join C12 or not. This is my first role as CEO or president. Before I was a COO, and so there was here. I'm 100% responsible for every aspect of the company. And it was. There was a lot of stress, and I went to a C12 meeting, and they started talking about problems, and I realized very quickly that I wasn't the only person that had problems and challenges.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's
many of the same ones. Yeah.
Exactly. And it was very refreshing to know that other people were having the same struggles that I had, and that I wasn't in this alone, that I could ask people for what problems they had seen related to what my challenge, and how they worked through it.
Yeah, it's so true. And the curriculum has been so valuable too. Yeah. I mean, I've enjoyed that camaraderie, as you've said. And we have our open forum at the end of the meeting, right, where we present our problems and get insights from, our colleagues. And, they know you so well, and they can be honest and open. And I was dealing with a staffing issue, right, of my own staff. And, one of the guys made a recommendation. I said, well, that's brilliant. Yeah, let's take a look and go down that road. How long have you been involved in C12?
Since 2017. So just over almost 3 years, getting close to 3 years now.
Fantastic. And, have you been implementing things like, chaplains and other types of things in the company, or do you do anything that's, utilizing some of the resources, the broader resources that we have?
Yeah, a lot of the video and audio we use. Philip, the grandson of the founder, is my key player.
So he's a believer as well.
He is. In fact, we open all of our, we have monthly management meetings, our board meetings. A lot of our key meetings are opened with prayer.
Fantastic. Love to hear that.
And we've taken a lot of the ideas that we've gotten from other C12 members and from the material on how to expand some of our Christian programs that we have in the company.
Fantastic. That's great. And so the family obviously is faith-based. Was it established as kind of a faith-based business as well, or were they not as, extroverted perhaps about that when the company was founded 70 odd years ago?
I'm not sure if it started in that fashion, but I know that we have a small book that was written in-house about the history of Hytrol. Right. And part of that book talks about Mr. Loberg had two key advisors that worked with him, a person that worked in the sales area and in an operations area. Mm-hmm. And they would have regular meetings, and at their meetings they had 4 chairs. It was 3 chairs for them and the 4th chair for the Lord. So,
I love that. That's great. So there's been a history there too.
Yeah.
Great. How would you say your leadership styles evolved over time, David, particularly now that you're in that CEO role?
Yeah. I've always been a very collaborative leader, and so I think maybe not so much in the Marine Corps, but
different culture.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that you always have to explain why. Even in the Marine Corps, in the military, you still have to explain why. And sometimes when you understand in that environment that you may not have time to explain why, but if you have a history of that, then you find yourselves in a situation where you don't have time to explain why. People trust you and they go do what you need them to go do, and that even applies in this role. And so, in our conversations, I've had to learn that I have good people. I don't need to solve all their problems. That I need to be a resource for them when they need that. It's my job to create the vision on where we're going and what the art of the possible is. If you go back 5 years, with our volumes, we'd ship $10 or $12 million a month, and everybody thought $12 million is just that's a huge month for us. And today, if you said $12 million, we'd all be panicked because we're not.
You wouldn't be able to cover payroll.
Exactly. And so we've learned that through the vision and just the leadership, that people have realized that they're able to accomplish a great deal more than what they might have thought they would have been able to accomplish. And so giving them that vision and that belief that we're able to go do these things, and then the resources. We've spent a lot of money. The family has invested heavily in capital equipment as we've grown, and my team and middle management and the rest of the organization realizes that the family's committed and that they're going to give us the resources we need to be successful. Yeah. We need to be good stewards obviously,
right.
but the resources are there for us when we need them. And there's a lot of M&A activity in our industry right now. It's with technology and with all the things that the Amazons of the world are doing. There's tremendous opportunities for M&A, and the family has very consciously and deliberately taken the position that they have no intention of ever selling the company. And so that sense of comfort that we're all in this and that we're all committed, it transcends across the entire organization.
Have you been acquiring other companies, or has that also not been something that they've been encouraging?
We have not to this point. We've thought about it, but the organic growth that's available,
sounds like it. Gosh, doubling in 4 years.
Yes, moving forward, and right now, my view and my guidance, or guidance may not be the right word, but my recommendation to the board is that those assets are overpriced, and at some point there will be an adjustment, and that would be the appropriate time.
Yeah. Terrific. Well, you're a manufacturing guy at heart, process orientation. Yep. How do you decide when it's time to micromanage people and when it's time to stay out of their sandbox?
We set metrics up every year, whether it's KPIs. Labor content, exactly. If it's labor content, material cost, we have 15, 16 KPIs that we monitor on a regular basis. And if someone's working within those, then let
them keep going.
Let them keep doing it. If they're struggling, we have some conversations, and if they need some help, then it's my responsibility to step in and give them that assistance. But
do you monitor that monthly, quarterly, daily, weekly? How do you kind of look at those KPIs?
Most of the KPIs we monitor daily.
Daily.
But our business is such that you can't act on a single data point of a day. Of course. So, for example, if we may sell a system that's a high-end system, and so if leading up to that, for 2 or 3 days before that, our numbers will be a little low.
Right.
And if you don't understand that, you
that's
need
what
to understand.
It takes.
And so if you look at it over a broader period, a week or a month, you can see the trends, and you have to act on the trends more than the individual data points.
Yeah, awesome. And so you've got a good dashboard where those KPIs come up across a variety.
Yeah, awesome. I've got a great IT group that when I first got here, I asked for what I called an executive summary, and I told them these are the KPIs that I want to monitor. And over the 5 years, that has grown to such an extent that a significant part of the company uses the data in that dashboard to monitor their particular areas.
So important. Terrific. What do you look for when you're making bets on the people you invest in, David?
I look for the character. Are they going to be a good fit within our organization? Because there are a lot of great people out there that would not do well here because the chemistry between the organization and them would just not would not work. But if they're strong characters and you got to have drive and initiative, it's those characteristics that I can teach you the technical side of what you need to know. It's the leadership and those intangibles that I need you to bring to the table. And if you do that, then the rest of it will be easy. We just hired an individual who has absolutely came out of the military, has no background in business whatsoever, and we're putting him in a fairly significant role. But as we do that, he's getting that opportunity because he has demonstrated the initiative and the intellect and the character that's the bedrock for success.
Right. So when you're looking at folks, and let's say if this is someone maybe down the organization, right? Maybe reports to someone that reports to you, and you just have 4 or 5 minutes. What does that look like? What kind of questions would you ask that person, to really get at their character?
I would ask them why they want to come and work for us. Why are they making a change right now? And ask them a little bit about their family.
Well, David Peacock, you've been so generous with your time. Thank you. We're just about out of time here, but we do have one last question we ask all our CEOs. And, that's what kind of career and life advice would you give to someone that maybe have their eyes on the corner office of their own?
I think to not be afraid. One of the things that I have learned is that not making a decision is itself a decision. So,
that's true.
So if you see something that needs to be done, go participate and go
see
help.
something, do something. Right.
Exactly. And if you do, more problems will come your way, which is a good thing.
Fantastic. Well, David Peacock, CEO and president of Hytrol Conveyor Company, thank you so much for sharing your journey into the corner office.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Into the Corner Office with Brant Handley. We hope you enjoyed hearing our guest CEO story as much as we did. If you want to hear more CEOs reveal their journey into the corner office, please subscribe via iTunes and tell your friends and colleagues. For more information about Brant, Resource Options International, and the mighty middle market, visit www.goforroi.com. We look forward to having you join us for our next episode.